Hello and welcome back to the Celebrating Life podcast. I'm Sony Thomas and I'm happy to have you join me today on the podcast as we continue our series on understanding cognitive bias and steps you can take to reduce its impact on your happiness. Last week we spoke about confirmation bias. Today we will talk on anchoring bias. Recently at a relative's wedding party, my uncle called me aside to discuss the food that was served, as the same caterer will be serving food for another upcoming wedding. My uncle, Sony, how was the chicken fry starter today? Can we go with the same for the next wedding also? I replied, Uncle, I didn't eat the chicken fry. My uncle looked surprised and I immediately added, however, it is a nice starter dish we can consider for the next wedding too. And I began to walk away. He called me back. Tell me about the mutton biryani. How was that? For which I sluggishly replied, I didn't eat the mutton biryani either. My uncle looked at me in horror. He was speechless. His knee-jerk reaction was, Sony, stop lying down. You see, my uncle is a victim to a cognitive bias known as anchor bias. This type of cognitive bias occurs when people rely too heavily on the first piece of information they receive when making a decision or judgment about a person, event, or a group. That becomes the anchor. Once an anchor is established, it tends to influence subsequent judgments and decisions, even if the anchor is irrelevant or arbitrary. To give you context, my uncle still holds on to the anchor of Sony being gluttonous for food. This was the first piece of information he has known about me for the first 20 plus years of my life. Yes, I was a glutton. I would devour massive quantities of food. I have set quite a few records among family and friends. But for the last 15 plus years of my life, I am on a growth journey, building my life one block at a time in different areas of my life, which obviously includes health. Health became a priority on which I have been constantly and consistently taking intentional action. Over the decade, I have worked on my eating habits, my communication patterns, my meaning of life, my thought patterns, my relationship depth, and overall the way I conduct my life. As a result, I have managed not only to drop weight, but improve energy and happiness in my life. But it is difficult for my uncle to see that there is something different about me, because he still holds on to the first piece of information about me, the anchor that Sony has little self-control when it comes to food. Instead of disproving my uncle's opinion about me, or for that matter anyone else's opinion of me, I just let people have a good time, even if it is at my expense at times. I enjoy living my life. Others' opinion of me is not my reality. What can you do to not be a victim of anchor bias? Simple. Challenge your information. Periodically update your information. And most importantly, meet people where they are today. This is only possible when you believe people can change and grow. Actually, the true sense of adulting or maturity is to evolve and grow in your thoughts, actions, and behaviors, and to hope and believe it is possible for others too. Remember, cognitive bias is deep-seated in the mental schema and is not easy to identify and even more difficult to change. But it is possible by building self-awareness and self-discipline. Remember, the first piece of information of a person, a group, or a thing does not have to be an anchor for all eternity. And if you need a safe space to sort through your cognitive anchors, I'm here to help you. Thank you for joining me today, and I invite you to continue listening to the series on cognitive bias as I unpack the cognitive bias known as sunken cost fallacy and more next week. Until then, make it a wonderful life.